And we are recording. Welcome everyone. This is your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. We have a special guest today, but first of all, this channel is proudly sponsored by Dead Tree Studios, the publishers and developers of Dames of Asstoria, a tabletop role-playing game where you play as monster girls, experiencing high adventure in a world that doesn't fully accept them. They have recently released Daughters of Lamb. This is a pay-what-you-want tabletop RPG where you get to play as cybernetic nuns with guns, looking for the missing pieces of their AI god. You will find it in their website. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment. This channel is also proudly sponsored by the Red Room Publishing. Please check out their store for exclusive tabletop RPG products. Especially their micro red category of games, they are ready to play RPGs with their settings and a streamlined version of the red system. You will find the link in the description and in the pinned comment as well. So today I have Mike from the Solitary RPG channel here. He is going to be participating as Morgan Bastien. We will get into that in this horror sci-fi type of game. But Mike, thank you for being here, and please tell us a bit about yourself and your channel.
Well, Abraham, thank you very much for inviting me to your channel to take part in this Eldritch horror style game that we're going to play. Uh, I've been in RPG for many, many years, and miniature gaming, it's just a passion that I've always had. I started solitary RPG three and a half years ago, just as a way of just sharing my passion for the hobby and everything that I do. And yeah, so I work a regular job, but my channel's just a hobby that I do on the side, just sharing what I do and how I do things. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
That is perfect. Now, everyone, I'm going to put a link to Mike's channel in the description of this video. Definitely check it out. Now, Mike, can you tell us a bit about your character, Morgan Bastien?
Morgan Bastien is a software developer who travels around the world implementing software programs. He happens to be in Tokyo at the moment, working on a project with clients. He has his wife and son back home in the United States, and he has been in Tokyo for about a week, just working on this project, implementing new programs into a company. And while he was in Tokyo, his son asked him to pick up a special souvenir, and that souvenir is a chakado, I believe is how we're pronouncing that.
Yes,
It's the
for everyone watching, it's a bit like a katana, but much smaller.
yes, it's the companion to the katana, and it's usually for close combat type combat. That didn't make a lot of this for close
Okay.
combat. And yeah, so he's just in town. He's noticed over the last couple days a lot of changes going on in the world, and there seems to be just continuous darkness out, and the moon's always shining, but he's not. The sun has not risen, and he's starting to notice very weird things going on, and he's not quite sure what's happening. And in his pocket, he has a special polished stone that his son gave to him on Father's Day, and it's a reminder of his life in the United States.
For everyone that is not familiar with this game, that is Eldritch Escape Tokyo. Just like Mike said it, the at least this part of Tokyo, the Tokyo is plunged in darkness, and the people are oblivious, but certain individuals, like Mike's character Morgan Bastien, they are aware of what is going on. So this is a bit of a lovecraftian game in the Japanese style. And just to make it clear, this is a fictional version of Tokyo. It doesn't have to match the real Tokyo. In fact, I doubt that myself or Mike are knowledgeable in everything when it comes to Tokyo, so we're going to be describing things as easy to understand as possible. If we don't know the name for something, we're going to just describe the thing. And
We're going to make it up as we go.
And just like to give information on the mechanic for this game, because it's a very simple game. During the search phase, Mike is going to be rolling a single d6, and he needs to roll below, well, a certain stat or below. If he accomplishes that, it's a success. If not, it is a failure. But in the hunting phase, and you will see the hunting phase when we get to it, he actually rolls a pool of dice equal to his ascension rank. That is a stat. So, for example, if he has ascension 2, he will be rolling 2 dice. And he wants to roll 1, 2, 3, or 4 to deal damage. Because 5 or 6, it's a miss. It's a bit like Dark Souls. You will see what I mean when we get to it, and I'm going to make it as clear as possible so that everybody that is watching can understand more or less how the game proceeds. So, are you ready to begin, Mike?
I'm all ready.
Excellent. And so it begins. You receive horrible visions and memories, but you feel no body. You are awareness, floating in a sea of darkness. You can hear the sound of screaming, people dying around you, some of them smashed against walls of the buildings surrounding you. Some of the other victims are encased in a cocoon of webbing. And the last thing that you remember, you are lifted up by threads of gigantic spider web. As a huge aberration the size of a 5-story building, shaped like a spider with hands at the end of each one of its legs, completely black colored, with a torso that resembles human ribs, the thorax, a mutation of human and spider, and the head, where the spider's head should be, is a mockery of a human head without a nose, just a mouth with rotting teeth and glowing red eyes as the creature throws its head at your own head and with a bite decapitates you, and then you know nothing. But you awaken with a gasp in a crossing of streets. 12 streets in total surround your area, each one positioned as one of the numbers in a clock face. At the center of these crossing streets, there is a statue of a samurai figure as tall as you, severely damaged with some pieces missing, particularly the name on the plaque that should display the name of the statue, and the scabbard is completely torn off. You now find yourself in the middle of these crossroads.
Looking around shocked, I'm going to go investigate the statue.
For a moment, Morgan Bastien finds himself thinking about the future, about what he is going to do, but he knows he needs to take present action. After clearing his mind, he notices an object next to him. It is the sword, the replica sword that he had decided to purchase for his son back home. It is on the ground to his right.
Picking up the sword I purchased.
And so it is accomplished. And Morgan can feel movement, some sort of rumble inside of his left pocket.
Reaching into my left pocket.
Morgan can feel the polished stone, a gift from his son back home. And as if propelled by some invisible force, the stone floats out of his pocket and floats in front of Morgan. Morgan can feel a force emanating from the stone, a wave of energy, and a message is sent directly into his mind. It looks like the resurrection was a success.
Reaching out for the stone to take possession of it.
As Morgan reaches out, the stone hovers away and once again sends a message. Wait, you will get your precious item back. But first we must get to know each other a little. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Morgan Bastide?
Who are you?
You may refer to me as Stone, because my name cannot be expressed in human terms.
Where are you at, Stone?
I am in a different dimension, a higher plane of existence, but I can employ this stone to communicate with you. Perhaps you have heard of rumors or whispers of beings, entities such as I, known as bellwethers.
I have seen strange things and heard rumors of these bellwethers.
Yes, you may have noticed that your senses are slightly sharper. It is our intention, my people, as you perhaps would choose to refer to us. We wish to help you humans against a terrible threat.
What is this terrible threat you mentioned?
You have probably remembered a monstrous being. I sense this is the workings of the Spider King. They are referred to as the Eldritch in some of your tomes. They are predators. They seek to devour the spirits of mankind.
I have memories of seeing one of these spiders. Where did they come from?
They come in many shapes and from various abysses, hells, if you will, if you wish to interpret that as such. It is not important where they come from, but rather it is of crucial importance that they have made it into your world.
How do we rid them from our world?
You have the power to defeat them. I suspect that the eldritch aberration that killed you was aware that you are one of the people that are highly evolved. And look at your sword. The sword that Morgan holds in his hand begins glowing. It is now a powerful weapon that will cause great injuries to your enemies.
And how do I go about finding these enemies?
I do not wish to startle you, but I am also clueless as to how you may encounter the being that entrapped you in this place. The stone hovers around Morgan. Just by extending my awareness, I can perceive that this is not ordinary Tokyo. You are now in a modified, distorted version of it.
So this is an alternative reality of Tokyo?
You could say so, but an alternative reality that has been forced, shoehorned into the real Tokyo.
Where do you suggest I go to start looking for these eldritch horrors?
The stone begins floating around, stopping at each of the streets in the crossing. We have 12 streets in total. I sense that an item was taken from this statue. The stone hovers to the samurai monument. Yes, the scabbard. It had some sort of magical or sorcerous property to it. It is within one of these streets that you will perhaps find the scabbard, or I sense that the scabbard has been separated. Find the 3 pieces, make the scabbard whole once more, and then you will be able to confront the being that has entrapped you here.
Looking around at the different routes that I can take.
Morgan can see that all of the streets are in complete darkness. It is only thanks to a glow coming from his sword that he is able to find his way, looking around. The stone once again sends a message. My connection to this world is getting weaker. It is as if I am lifting a heavy weight every time I communicate with you. Just one final word, one final message before I leave. I will try to return as soon as possible. But even though I have resurrected you, your body is decaying due to the Eldritch effects on this zone. You now obtain the tag of Stamina Gauge. Write down Stamina Gauge on your sheet. It begins at 6 of value. It has 6 and drops by 1 each time you move from one area to the next. Even after your stamina drops to 0, you can still move between areas, but each time you move with stamina 0, you may end up losing 1 shield instead. The voice continues. It is of importance to perhaps secure some sort of nourishment, perhaps food, or some other thing that keeps you alive, that raises your stamina gauge. I am fading. Best of luck. I will try to return soon. The voice fades and the stone hovers back into your pocket.
Using my sword as a light, I'm going to start looking around for stores or restaurants that I can get some newer nutrients from.
From this crossroads section, it is impossible to see distinguishing features on the other streets. The closest buildings look like ordinary buildings, houses.
I'm going to just walking down one of the streets. I'm going to continue to explore.
Morgan finds himself thinking too much in the future about what he is going to do. And he continues down a dilapidated street. The street looks ruined, and there is trash, cans, and bottles littering it. Further up ahead, the sound of a man in pain can be heard. Oh!
Rushing towards the man in pain.
As you continue hurrying up towards the source, you notice a wall encircling a house that has been completely shattered, as if a giant fist fell upon it. It used to be a 2-story house. The wall is splattered with blood, and a humanoid jumps over the wall. The humanoid appears to be a normal looking man dressed in a blue shirt and jeans, brown shoes, but its head is completely bald and there is a single eye at the center. The creature has long black claws. It looks at you and walks very slowly in your direction.
Holding up my sword. Who are you?
The humanoid pauses. It begins to carve at its face with its claws, ripping apart the area where the mouth should have been, and produces a sound. You must now roll a d6. Roll your insight or lower.
Failure.
The being continues gargling. Oh, oh, no. And it cuts its own throat, rips it apart into pieces, and falls to the ground, apparently dead.
Walking up to investigate the body, the remains, a little closer.
The humanoid has no belongings, not even a belt holding his jeans. It appears almost human, with the exception for the head.
Looking over the wall that humanoid jumped over.
There is a garden infested with weeds, and the house itself lies in ruins.
Continuing moving forward.
As Morgan continues, he finds himself once more in the crossroads, as if some dimensional shift occurred. He can feel movement in his pocket, and the small stone levitates once more in front of him and speaks. I sense that there was some sort of shift in the physics. It looks like the streets may end up leading you back to this central area.
And I saw something very bizarre in the street that I went down.
What did you see?
A humanoid person with one eye, and they took their own lives.
It is very disturbing. It sounds like a human just like you that was somehow transformed.
It seems there's a lot of humans that have been transformed over the last few days, because I've seen some very strange things since the darkness came over.
So the contamination is spreading. You are indeed in the center of a situation that is difficult to navigate. I would advise that you mark down, perhaps if you have a piece of paper or pencil, mark down that the road, let's call it Road 12, has been explored. There are still 11 streets to examine. My connection with you is fading. The stone levitates and once more gets into Morgan's pocket.
I'm going to, investigating the center, try to determine any type of numbering system or way of identifying these roads.
The roads are so featureless that there is no such thing, but it is very easy for Morgan to mark down the roads that have been explored Morgan can easily assign a number to each road for easier navigation.
Drawing out a map on a small business card that was in my pocket to identify the road that I've already explored and moving to the road next to it.
Morgan continues down a street that is very clean when compared to the other streets. There are even a couple of lamplights on the street. But then, a smell of brimstone, of something burning further up ahead, can be perceived.
Cautiously moving forward towards the burning brimstone.
As Morgan continues, he notices a small flame floating in the air in the center, and the flame bursts, and Morgan finds himself upon what appears to be a street in an entertainment district. There are signs on buildings, but the writing is not in any language that Morgan has seen before. There are statues of men standing in front of each of the buildings in a position of beckoning, but they are frozen. They are statues in gestures of calling someone into these structures.
Approaching one of these buildings, looking through windows or openings to see what's inside before entering.
As Morgan approaches one of the buildings, a semi-transparent, translucid silhouette manifests from out of the statues. The entity speaks. "Keep killing them, for our sake," speaking in Japanese.
Having a background, understanding the language, keep killing who?
The Eldritch, they are changing us. They are... Oh, there is something. Look, the silhouette points towards a building. "You will find what is necessary inside there. Go!" And the silhouette, the phantasmal figure, dissipates into nothingness.
Moving in the direction he pointed to, cautiously and prepared for anything to happen, towards the location he pointed out.
Morgan quickly spots a piece of a stone scabbard, the same material from the statue at the central area, just lying at the very entrance, the doorway of the building.
Looking at the building cautiously to see if there's any movement inside.
Morgan can perceive nothing, no sound, no movement.
Reaching down to pick up the piece of scabbard that's on the ground.
As Morgan takes the piece, the entire area around him fades away into smoke, and he is once more in the crossroads. He now has the tag of Labyrinth Key 1. Labyrinth Key 1. Once more, Morgan can feel a vibration coming from his pocket, and the stone floats in front. "I sense that you have acquired one of the pieces of the scabbard."
Holding it out in my hands.
"We only need 2 more. This is excellent. Oh no, but I have noticed something as well." Morgan must now reduce his stamina tag by 2. He started with 6, so now he has 4. I am sensing that this exploration is taking a heavy toll on your body, if possible, but I do not sense a way to acquire it. If only you could find a source of food or nourishment. But yes, it is quite clear that many of these streets have no such thing. Oh, I am fading. The stone floats back into Morgan's pocket.
Moving on to the next row or road to investigate, still looking for nutrients to fuel my body.
As Morgan proceeds into what would be Street 2, because Streets 12 and 1 have been explored, he notices an entrance leading down into what is most obviously a subway.
Descending down the stairs into the subway.
There is a sound of crowds, of people laughing and talking, but nobody can be seen.
Investigating further into these sounds that I'm hearing.
The sounds continue as if nothing at all has changed, but Morgan can hear a train approaching. The vehicle stops in front of him. The doors open.
I'm going to search inside the train.
As Morgan approaches and looks inside, there is the sound of many voices as if the vehicle is packed, filled with people.
Morgan's going to leave the area.
As Morgan makes his way outside, he hears the sound of a multitude running at him from outside of the subway. A rush of human-like figures, exactly like the humanoid he saw before. Almost human, dressed normally, except for their heads, which have a single large eye at the center and no nose, no ears, no mouth, and claws instead of fingers, large black claws. The creatures rush at Morgan. It is quite clear that they are attempting to slash at him.
Defending with my sword.
Morgan must now roll Ascension, a single d6. Roll Ascension or below.
Failure.
The cuts, slashes, attacks, and even some hits from the enemies make their way through the parries and blocks that Morgan attempts. But the damage is minimal as the power of the sword holds them at bay and cuts them apart. The stamina gauge tag has decreased. Morgan now has 3 stamina. And in the flurry of attacks, the entire area around Morgan fades. And he finds himself once more in the crossroads.
Looking over the wounds that I took.
The wounds were minor cuts, not enough to cause severe damage to Morgan's body. And this time, strangely enough, the stone is not making an appearance is not floating out of Morgan's pocket and is not delivering any message.
Moving towards the next road.
The street has several lamps illuminating the dark, and there are some fireflies. They swarm around Morgan.
Batting off the fireflies.
As Morgan swats away the insects, he spots an apartment building. The apartment building is 2 stories tall, and it is ringed with barricades. It is quite clear that that place was used or is being used as some sort of safe area.
Approaching the door and pounding on the door.
A voice is heard. Who's there in Japanese? Who's there?
Let me in, I need help.
No, we cannot take any risk, but could you perhaps share some food with us? If
I'm
Morgan decides to share food, that would reduce the stamina gauge by 1.
I have some food I can share with you if you let me in to get away from these flies.
Yes. Oh, wait for just a moment. Morgan can hear the sound of footsteps rushing and the sound of other people inside. And he can see a basket descending with a rope from one of the windows in the building. And a voice, the same voice from above, is heard. Please, place the food. Place the food in the basket, please.
Let me in first.
No, we are in danger. If we get inside, you may attract them. Have you seen them? They are horrible monsters.
I have seen them. Holds up the sword, and I have protection from them.
No, it could be. No, we cannot let you inside. I am sorry. I am sorry. And the basket is pulled up, and no voice is heard.
Searching around the building, looking for maybe another entrance in.
Morgan can spot a back door.
Carefully and slowly turning the knob to feel if it's locked or not.
It is locked, but the door feels considerably weaker, flimsy, when compared to the main entrance.
Forcefully pushing the door open.
The wood, as if rotting away, allows access inside. And the room is completely dark. But thanks to the illumination from the sword, pieces of organs and blood splatters, paint the room. It is empty except for a single shelf with a sack, a brown sack.
Cautiously using my sword as a flashlight to look around closely, moving towards the brown sack on the shelf.
Morgan easily makes his way towards the brown sack and notices that it is closed with a piece of red rope.
Taking the bag off the shelf, setting it down, and opening up the bag.
Morgan finds dried meat inside of the bag. The stamina gauge has gone up by 1. Morgan is now at 4. And as the bag was opened, Morgan finds himself once more in the center of the crossroads.
Which road can I mark off?
Morgan finds himself asking questions to no one in particular, but he thinks back to the roads and he notices that roads 12, 1, 2, and 3 have been completely explored.
Picking up the bag and smelling in the dry meats.
It is edible enough. This will help Morgan through his journey without suffering hunger. The stamina gauge automatically remains as it is or replenishes. It is not necessary for Morgan to indicate that he is eating, as he will be eating along the way.
Taking a deep breath in, moving on to the next road.
As Morgan proceeds, he makes his way through a street that looks out of a dream, perhaps even a nightmare, as pieces of paper and corpse appendages, pieces of corpses, are floating all around. Even trash cans and cars, entire cars, are floating around Morgan.
Dodging the floating objects, searching for any items that might come in handy.
As Morgan looks around, he spots something just above him. A door floating in the sky at about 30 feet up in the sky. He also notices that several of the objects, the cars, pieces of wreckage, and even corpses, appeared as a sort of ladder into the door.
Pushing down on one of the items for stability.
The floating object is stable enough to be used as some sort of platform or step.
Using the items as a ladder, moving towards the door.
Now, Morgan must make an ascension check. Roll a d6. Roll your ascension or lower.
Fail.
As Morgan proceeds, he stumbles and falls down from a considerable height, falls on his head, a crack is heard, and he dies. But once more, his body floats upwards, and Morgan feels the sickening feeling of being wrenched from the afterlife. Morgan's ascension has gone up to 2. His shields have gone up to 2. And Morgan notices a strange change in his body.
Waking up dazed, looking, my skin is losing its pigmentation, and it just feels stronger or tenser than it did before, but also restricting to Morgan, as it like wearing tight clothes on his body.
As Morgan appraises the changes upon his body, he now finds himself once more in the crossroads, and the stone once again floats out of the pocket and speaks. It appears you have died once more. I was able to bring you back. How are you feeling?
Just feeling restricted inside.
It appears that the change was internal and external, but it will surely grant you an advantage in battle. I am certain that some of the attacks from the Eldritch may perhaps bounce off of your skin. Hopefully.
Taking the tip of my sword and just lightly poking my skin.
Morgan feels sturdier. The voice continues. I am fading once more. You have made great progress. It looks like. Yes. Only 7 streets to explore. And who knows, perhaps you will find the other 2 missing pieces before you need to explore the rest of the streets. The voice stops, and the stone once more goes into Morgan's pocket.
Pondering options, Morgan decides to move on to the next road.
The road that Morgan takes is populated with trees and grass. The sidewalks have natural decorations. There are even images of flowers and birds painted on some of the walls. And further up ahead, there are signs of movement in the darkness, rushing further ahead.
Morgan cautiously moving forward down the road towards the people rushing ahead.
Morgan suddenly finds himself thinking as if he were someone else, instead of thinking about taking action in first person. As he approaches the area, he spots a park, and there are 3 individuals fighting with metal tubes and wooden boards against 3 of the humanoids that have a single eye on the center of their heads. The individuals, normal humans that are fighting the monsters, they seem to be losing, as some of them are getting battered, some of them tripping and stumbling.
Joining in to defend the humans.
They look at Morgan, and in Japanese they say, "Help us! Kill them! Kill them, please!"
Holding out his sword, charging in for the attack.
Morgan charges and easily cuts down the 3 beings that almost try to dogpile him. They fall before the cuts of his sword, but he now feels extremely tired. His stamina has been reduced by 3. He now has 1 stamina. And Morgan's insight goes up to 2. The people speak. One of them, a man with black hair, leather jacket, and brown pants, speaks in Japanese. "Oh, thank you. You fight like a true warrior. You are obviously a foreigner, are you not?"
Yes, I am. My name's Morgan.
"Morgan, we have little to spare. But please, I know this is not healthy, but we found this bag of chips. Do you want them? They are wasabi flavored."
Thank you very much.
As soon as Morgan takes the bag from the individual, the entire scene fades, and he finds himself in the crossroads once more. His stamina remains at 1, as he was about to suffer the effects of hunger. But due to the bag of chips, the stamina remains at 1.
Reaching into my bag, taking some of the dry meat out.
The food was nourishing, but the stamina remains the same.
Okay. Walking towards the next road in the square that we're in.
Morgan can hear the sound of a jingle, one of the typical sounds heard from convenience stores. The street is completely dark, but there is a faint light further up ahead.
Walking towards the light.
The light comes from a single convenience store. The sign shines in neon colors. The windows and the front door, the area around the convenience store, seems untouched. There is not even trash or garbage around. No blood, no corpses. The convenience store looks perfectly neat and clean.
Entering the store.
Morgan easily makes his way into the building, and it is completely sacked except for a bag of bread, plastic bag of bread on one of the shelves.
Searching around, looking for other items.
There is no other item of importance whatsoever. Not even the register.
Picking up the bag of bread and adding it to the pouch with my dry meats.
As soon as the bag was taken, the stamina gauge goes up by 3. Morgan is now at 4. The area around him fades, and his stamina is decreased by 1. He is currently at stamina 3. And Morgan finds himself once more in the crossroads.
Feeling a bit confident in himself, Morgan moves on to the next road.
Morgan suddenly hears the sound of children laughing to his right through a narrow alleyway.
Investigating the sounds moving through the alleyway.
As Morgan proceeds into the alleyway, he spots a single figure dressed in white robes. The white robes are stained with blood. The creature is sitting, crossing its legs. It seems to be human, but the robes cover the face of the figure. The humanoid sitting in a lotus position just to the side of this narrow alleyway speaks in a woman's voice, an elderly woman's voice. Kill the Eldritch, kill them, and never stop.
Where are they?
They are everywhere, but they are anchored to this place because of the strength of their king, the Spider King. Here, take this. This will assist you in finding that monster. The figure hands out a piece of the stone scabbard from the statue.
Taking possession of it.
The Labyrinth key tag is raised by one. Now there are two keys. As the piece of the scabbard is taken, Morgan finds himself once more in the crossroads, and the stone, faster than before, floats out of Morgan's pocket and speaks. You have two pieces. I was just thinking, but this could be very risky. If you were to perhaps stab yourself with as much strength as possible and drain your life force, you could perhaps be able to face the Spider King right now. But I warn you, this could get you closer to becoming a monster yourself. If Morgan chooses to stab himself with his sword, he will be transported to the area where the Spider King is, but his ascension would go up by one. The stone continues. It is, of course, your choice. You could perhaps decide to further explore around, or take this risky approach.
Thoughts enter Morgan's mind, looking at the stone of his children, his son and his wife back home, morally opposed to taking his own life, but notes the conversation clearly of what the stone shared. He is going to just move to the next road and go explore.
Morgan hesitates for a moment, thinking about what he is going to do. While he is hesitating about thinking in the future, the stone goes back into his pocket. And only then, Morgan proceeds to the next street. There is the sound of buzzing flies moving around Morgan, but he cannot see any flies.
Investigating, using the sword as a light, looking for flies.
As he illuminates the area around him, the sword, almost as if it serves as some sort of lens within its radius, reveals various pieces, puzzle-like pieces of the same face, flying around, a part of a jaw, part of the cheekbone. Each part separately has wings of giant flies, and they are buzzing around Morgan.
Continuing to just piece the puzzle together to figure out what I'm seeing.
Morgan realizes that it is quite possible to take each of these pieces and put them together into a single face.
Solving the puzzle to figure out the face.
Morgan must roll insight or below.
Fail.
The flies move away with incredible speed, and the entire area around Morgan disappears into nothingness. He now finds himself in the middle of the crossroads, but he spots something that was not there before: a manhole.
Going to the manhole to investigate further with this new appearance.
The manhole vibrates for a moment as if something is rumbling underneath it. The cover that grants access to what appears to be a sewer area, but then it remains still, motionless.
Morgan looking around for something to help pry the manhole cover up.
There is no object whatsoever.
Laying his hand on top of the manhole cover, feeling if it's still vibrating.
The cover is motionless, no longer vibrating.
Unwilling to risk his sword, Morgan moves on to the next road.
Morgan finds himself in front of a tall building, 4 stories tall, and there are signs and images, iconography of books. The main entrance is locked with a chain.
Pulling on the chain, break it free.
Due to his newly acquired strength, Morgan easily breaks the thin chain away and now has access to the interior of the building.
Going inside the building to investigate.
As Morgan steps inside, he finds that the building is completely bare. No furniture, no shelves, with the exception of a spiral tower. The spiral tower reaches up to the very top of the structure.
Walking up the stairs.
As Morgan continues up the stairs, he finds that in this spiral structure, there are books lodged into various nooks and crannies. They look very old, some of them about to turn to a moldy mess.
Scanning the books for titles for anything that stands out to me.
Due to his knowledge of Japanese, Morgan spots a book that reads Bushido, the Way of the Warrior.
Gingerly reaching out and slowly removing the book from its nook.
The book is easily removed and the book feels heavy and hollow. It holds something inside.
Taking the book with me to the top of the staircase.
And so it is accomplished. The staircase leads all the way to the ceiling, and there is nothing else, nothing at the top.
Sitting down on the ground, opening up the book.
Inside of the book, the pages were cut in a perfect square, and inside lies the remaining piece of the scabbard. The key tag goes up, Labyrinth key, by 1. Morgan now has 3 pieces.
Heavy sigh of relief. Time to descend the staircase and make my way back to the square.
As Morgan takes a single step with the 3 pieces, they fly out of his belongings. They join together, and a blinding flash erases the entire area around Morgan. His stamina is now at 0, but he now finds himself in the center of a colossal building. The building has metal walls and windows the size of cars. The entire place is covered with webbing. The hunting phase has begun.
Invest. Ooh.
Morgan hears a sound, deafening sound, as if an elephant or something larger is moving up top, and he can see the same aberration, the same monstrous spider, black colossal spider with a ribcage similar to a human's ribcage, the head of a human without a nose and rotting teeth, with legs that end in human hands. The creature rushes at Morgan, and Morgan finds himself in front of the being that is about to descend completely upon him. Morgan is now in cell 1. 3 actions: move or attack.
First action is to move to 6.
Morgan quickly proceeds. The spider-like aberration doing its best to keep up with Morgan's steps. Morgan is now standing just to the flank of the being. 2 actions remain.
Morgan takes a roll, like a tumble roll, to move to section 5.
With quick motions, Morgan finds himself in cell 5, and the creature attempts to slash and cut at him with its clawed hands, but fails to do so. Morgan now has 1 action.
Just in a straightforward motion, plunging my sword forward into the rib cage area.
Morgan must now roll dice equal to his ascension.
A 1 and a 5.
The attack was precise and deadly. As the spider howls inhumanly in pain, the cut was deep. The 2 shields of damage were dealt. The spider monster attacks with 3 of its clawed hands. And one of the hands left a deep gash on Morgan's left arm. 1 shield of damage was taken. And the aberration continues its deadly assault, using another of its legs to smash Morgan against the wall. But it fails to do so completely. And now Morgan has a chance to act.
taking advantage of the spider's miss with a precise plunging of the sword into the joint of that leg to disable that leg.
Roll Ascension.
A 4 and a 6.
A superficial cut was dealt, but the spider moved away just in time, while making an unearthly howl of pain. Morgan still has 2 actions.
Going across to cell 2, maneuvering through the spider's legs, trying to get onto its other flank.
Morgan easily makes his way across to cell 2. 1 action remains.
Plunging the sword to the other side of the rib cage of the spider.
Morgan must roll Ascension.
5 and a 6.
The spider quickly moves to the side. For a colossal being, the speed of the spider is unnatural, and Morgan misses. Because Morgan ended his turn on cell 2, the creature is able to swat at him quickly. The hands reaching out, grasping one of the fingers, inflicting a cut across Morgan's neck, and Morgan dies. But the stone vibrates, and he immediately comes back to life. His body is experiencing changes.
Realizing what's taking place, knowing that when he dies, he comes back stronger. The pigment continues to leave his skin, giving him a grayish stone appearance. Skin is tighter now on his muscles, and he's feeling more strength in his body. Morgan prepares to take on this spider.
The Spider King is now once more facing Morgan head on and makes another swipe at Morgan. The cut from one of the claws almost skewered Morgan despite the thickness and dealt 2 shields of damage. Morgan is still alive because now he has 3 shields due to the ascension. And Morgan can now take 3 actions.
Morgan
finds himself thinking in third person. He was about to miss a turn.
dashing through the legs of the spider to cell 4.
Easily accomplished as the monster attempts to hit Morgan but misses.
Taking a slashing action towards the back of the spider to fillet it open.
Roll Ascension. 3 dice.
3, 3, 5.
A cut that was not exactly deep but still significant is inflicted upon the monster. And Morgan has 1 action remaining.
Morgan taking a defensive stance and preparing in cell 5.
Because Morgan moved in clockwise motion, the monster moves extremely quick and this time throws its body at Morgan. Attempting to smash him, dealing horrible damage. Morgan can feel his body cracking under the pressure. Morgan has died once more. The stone vibrates inside of his pocket, and Morgan comes back to life immediately with 4 shields for ascension. But the assault of the fiend continues as it now throws 4 of its legs at Morgan, dealing a small blow to his left shoulder. Morgan takes 1 shield of damage. But now Morgan has 3 actions. It is time for Morgan to act.
Coming back to life, Morgan is now gray as a stone.
Morgan is in cell 1. Once more.
Okay. He's as gray as a stone. His skin is starting to get coarse and looking like a hide of an animal, like an elephant or a rhinoceros. Energized and ready to go, Morgan just plunges the
Morgan
sword.
finds himself thinking in third person, as if he was no longer there.
Taking the sword and plunging straight into the spider's face.
Because Morgan is attacking from cell 1, the monster quickly reacts and throws a barrage of all of its legs against Morgan. Terrible blows. 2 shields of damage as 2 of the legs crack some of the ribs in Morgan's body. Morgan is still standing with 1 shield remaining. It is obvious that when attacking from the front, this will always happen due to the speed of the monster. 2 actions remaining.
Dodging under the spider's legs, moving to cell 4, holding the sword up as he goes.
It is easily accomplished, and Morgan is now in cell 4, 1 action remaining, with the sword at the ready.
Slashing the back end of the spider.
Roll Ascension. 4 dice in total.
1, 3, 4, and 6.
The cut was deep and terrible. Pieces of the monster fall down, yellowish looking viscera, entrails. With a howl of pain, the creature throws webbing at full force, as if a fire hose was shot out at Morgan. The discharge goes through him like a deadly projectile, dealing 1 point of damage. And once more, Morgan has died and is resurrected with 5 ascension, 5 shields. Changes are occurring in Morgan's body.
Springing up from the damage taken, Morgan is not human looking. The skin has darkened and is extremely coarse, like an animal's hide. Taking everything into consideration from this combat, Morgan jumps to cell 6 and plunges into the ribcage with his sword.
Before Morgan is able to take that action, it is clear that the Spider King is changing its pattern of attack and once more throws its bulk in order to attempt to crush Morgan. Morgan was delayed because of the third person thinking, but he was still able to avoid most of the damage. But part of the body of the creature got through, dealing 1 shield of damage. But Morgan is now in cell 6 and has 2 actions remaining.
Plunging the sword into the ribcage.
Roll Ascension.
4 5s and a 6.
The aberration parried the blade using its chitinous legs, and Morgan still has an action.
Dashing to cell 3.
With quick steps, Morgan is in cell 3. As the Spider King changes, readjusting its position, and flails one of its legs, reaching out with its clawed hand towards Morgan, inflicting a superficial cut. And that is not the end of its attacks, as it once more throws its bulk at Morgan at full speed. Inflicting a nasty blow on Morgan's right shoulder, inflicting 1 damage. Morgan has a total of 3 shields of damage, and now he can take action once more. 3 actions.
Looking over the spider for a soft spot to plunge the sword into.
Roll Ascension.
1 2, 2 5s and a 6.
A vulnerable spot was found, and the sword bites deep into the monster as it roars in pain. 2 actions remain.
While the sword is still in there, taking a slicing action to fillet the spider open.
Roll Ascension.
2 1s, 2 3s, and a 5.
The sword drills and cuts, making a large yellowish line, spilling out the entirety of the insides of the spider monster. The creature thrashes and flails, breaking some of the walls and windows of the building. All of the liquids inside of the monster spill out with a horrible smell of sewage, and the Colossus stops moving.
Like a proud hunter, Morgan goes to the head of the spider and gives it a final blow on top of its head.
The deed is done. The creature vanishes into putrescent smoke with a gurgling sound. And as Morgan lands, once more finding himself in the crossroads, but a ladder coming from above, from heaven, descending. A ladder of red silk rope. He can hear the voice of the entity inside of the stone. This time the stone is not floating up. The message is delivered directly. Morgan, you have done well. I frankly did not expect that you would stand a chance against such a powerful being.
What is the next thing for the world we live in?
This is but one of many aberrations. The ladder that is descending is a manifestation of my will, a tether that will help you escape this pocket plane of Tokyo.
Morgan stepping up to the ladder and ascending up.
And as Morgan takes hold of the ladder, the stone gives one final message before fading out. I think now is the time for you to understand the truth. I did not wish to reveal this because of the changes. I was once a human like you, but my spirit fused into a collective of other beings. We, the Bellwethers, are separate entities, but each Bellwether is a combination of various souls. And I must inform you that one of those souls used to have the name of Morgan Bastine. And the session ends.
Excellent.
So what do you
Excellent.
think?
The game is fantastic, and the way you had me set it up, it was a little challenging in the combat to speak in third person, simply because I had a mechanical device, and that's just how my mind went. Caught myself doing it, but that was like the hardest part of it, and just staying in the moment, just staying in the story and everything that was going on. It was interesting. I was not sure where it was going to head, and I liked it. It was a lot of fun.
And I think the battle was getting pretty intense. You ended up in Ascension 5, so only two steps away from becoming a monster
It,
yourself.
it
Because for everybody that is watching, if he reaches Ascension 7, he turns into a monster, and that's like the bad ending.
I got lucky with one roll. That one roll with the two ones and the three.
I think you did the right choice in attacking twice, like in a row, because the creature, just like in Dark Souls, they change their patterns, and after you deal a certain amount of damage, I was at a point rolling 10 dice of damage. So I think that if you had delayed a bit, the creature would have killed you perhaps twice in a, well, considerably fast. Yeah, perhaps two deaths in a row. Who knows?
Well, I had to test things out because when we spoke, you told me that they had certain responses, and I wanted to try that head-on shot because I just needed to know, does the spider have a good frontal attack? It does. I found out the hard way. But the flanks and the rear is where I needed to stay.
And you, that was perhaps luck, but I am curious. Why didn't you move in clockwise? You were always moving counterclockwise.
No particular reason.
Because that was great. Every time, one of the triggers, whenever you move clockwise, it gets a free attack.
Oh,
Yeah, so every time you went like behind the creature and you moved counterclockwise, that was like perfect. Like,
there was no real rhyme or reason. Just numbers happened. When I start saying things, I'll just go in this way.
in fact, let me show you like the attack patterns here, present so that you can see the protocol of this thing. Where is it? Here it is. Where is this? Uh, uh, uh. No, no, no. The hunter moved in a clockwise direction. Perform a 3 dice attack. Do you see? But you were avoiding that. That was great because you were not moving clockwise at all.
I think I did once.
Once I had you got hit once, but that's
Yeah.
when I think you understood that whenever you moved clockwise, he was going to attack you.
Didn't understand. I didn't have that in mind.
Oh no.
I just naturally went to a certain side. Maybe it's just because I'm left-handed. I don't know. I just kind of went in that direction. But I felt it was best to get to the rear of the spider and try to attack that way and staying on the flanks, knowing that after my combat was over, I was going to be facing it again because it was going to move around. And I wanted to keep it busy having, I didn't know if a spider had, I didn't know if the encounter had action points like I did, but I wanted it to have to keep moving, especially after I tried the frontal attack and realized that ain't good. I just wanted to stay on the flanks in the rear just to try to get a shot in. That was basically the plan. Pretty straightforward plan, but it worked. So life is good.
And I'm curious about the other monsters because that one is the easiest one.
Which the one in the
The
street?
Spider King. No, no, yeah, like the big bad, the big boss that you faced. That you have like a menu of monsters in this
Oh,
book, and that's one like the easiest one because I thought, well, it's our first time playing this game, so I'm going to use that one. But I wonder how terrible the others are because this one felt pretty lethal in my opinion.
well, now with knowledge of everything, if Morgan went through this again, having more experience in the world, would know to, like, the first encounter with the guy that hopped over the wall, I was more just shocked and I couldn't talk in third person,
In first.
so I just was like,
Yeah,
I'm,
okay.
I'm just stepping back. I don't know what this is. This isn't something I'm used to. But after I saw what happened, when I found the park and the three people being attacked, I'm like, well, let's just go see what happened. Let's go help them because we already know these are bad creatures. So I was learning the world a little bit at a time. I just didn't want to rush out and go slashing everything up. I didn't think that was what I would want to do. I want to figure out what's going on, even though I knew I was decapitated at the beginning of the story and brought back to life. I still wanted, could have been a helper person. I don't know, but it's obvious they weren't helpful in any way, shape, or form. So it looks like those are like the minions.
Like the minions, the spawn of that thing.
Yeah. So after that, I was like, all right, time to fight them. I was going to go back to the one roadway that had the stairs going up, or the floating stuff, to go try that door
The
again.
door.
Yeah, because I was like, well, floating door, that's a good possibility. There might be something good behind it. But I found the third piece in the like library or bookstore or whatever it was, since it was empty. So I was like, okay, I don't have to go back, because I made a note about that one to go back over there to go up the, because that's where I died. I think that was the first, well, outside of the beginning, that was the first time I died in the show or in the story. So I was going to maybe go back over there because I hit pretty much all the roads. I was think I was down to 3.
Well, I was keeping track of them just in case. There were 3 exactly.
Yeah, so because I didn't have a system. I was just numbering. Okay, I went down a road. I was just going in order,
I
just
got
like the clock.
confused for a moment because of the manhole because that was like an extra level.
Yeah, I was like, how am I going to get through the manhole though? I didn't want to like put my sword in there and break the tip of my sword off. That's my only defensive weapon I have.
And it's a good choice because you have to make those choices.
Yeah,
Because
and
it
I
could
was
be a trap, like you're wasting your stamina looking for things, so you have to decide, do I keep on exploring the other streets or do I go down the manhole?
yeah. And once she said I couldn't find anything around me to help pry it open, I was like, and I put my hand on it just to see if it was still vibrating. It wasn't. I'm like, well, I can come back to this later. If that's part of the story that's unfolding, just hit the next road. Just kind of wanted to hit all the roads, kind of explore them all, because it seems like once I hit the road and faded back to the town square or the statue,
Mm-hmm.
that was done. So I could kind of like cross that off my list. And then if there was one I needed to go back to, which so it's the floating door was the only one I was so far wanted to go back to. Just
Mm-hmm.
wanted
Mm-hmm.
because I thought maybe the third piece was down in the sewer, but didn't want to take any chances. Maybe I would find something else in one of the roads to help me pry that up if that was the story arc we were going to follow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's where my mind went.
And what do you think about the system in general? Like, did you would you add some improvements, or did you like it? Like your opinion based on your knowledge of games.
Uh, the mechanics are dead simple. Uh, just roll under your value when you're doing checks or things like that. Combat, one, two, threes, and fours are your hits. Fives and sixes are your miss. That one roll was three fives and a six. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not playing the right game right now because that was an amazing roll. Uh, so that I like that simplicity of the mechanics, the way the game is designed. It doesn't have a timer, but you have to make decisions based on what your value. It's a balancing. I need to die as a character because I need to get those values up for my skills, but I don't want to get carried away with it and do stupid stuff. You want to balance it out just right. So it actually adds a lot to the game. The first person, third person conversation, which is old school RPGs. And I love that, where I'm not playing a character sheet. It's there, but I'm not playing that. I'm playing the story. I'm playing out my actions. And it is a bit of a shift, especially with everything I do playing solo, because I'm so used to talking about when I play solo, I use the character's name.
I yeah, that's perfectly permissible. That is, you can describe your actions in third person because you're still playing the role. But I would recommend that when you want to like to how you say enhance the connection with the character, go first person. Even when you play solo, start like I go through the door, and you will see that you will feel that pull. And I don't know if you notice, but in the moments of great tension, of the greatest tension, that's when you switch to third person. And like I said, for everyone watching, you can roleplay in third person, but for this session, I made it like a rule that in first person. But we all tend to do that. I even did that a long time ago. I used to do that. That whenever I was like in danger, like, I wanted to distance myself from my character, and I was like, "Oh, John Doe does this," but that's your tendency. Like, "Oh no, it's too real, man. It's too real." Like,
Well, it adds a level of immersion into the game uh, that just helps you bond to the story better. So that way it feels a little bit more real.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I understand we're playing a game, so I don't get scared of the things going on. I don't feel that it's too real for me.
mm-hmm,
I like that level of immersion in the game to make it better. It's just bad habits
uh huh,
of how I play my games solo. Some of it, you probably saw me a couple times going, I just kept, I would
uh
say
huh, uh-huh.
Morgan, and I'm like, oh no, and then I would correct myself. It's just a bad habit
Yeah, I think it's on a psychological level because it never happens when everything is very like tranquil or clear. It
because
always
I'm not
happens, like I said, I
excited.
think there is a subconscious need of distancing yourself when you're about to get attacked, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because when you're normal, you're like, I look around, like, nah. But when you're fighting, oh, no, no, John Doe steps back.
I think I just get excited. I'm like, I'm in
That's it.
combat now, so this is what I want to do right now, and maybe the
Mm-hmm.
miniature gamer in me comes out in that a little bit because on the tabletop when I'm playing my miniature games, there's no RPG element. It's
Mm-hmm.
just these guys are doing this, these guys are doing that. So maybe some of that comes out in me. But I was excited. That's where where all the excitement was for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just slip of the brain. But I
Yeah, but
catch
it was still
myself.
really good. Uh huh. Uh-huh.
As long as I catch myself, I feel I'm okay. I'm catching myself doing it. So next go around, I can improve on that and not get caught up into any of that and just really tell the story. But I like this
Ah,
mechanic. This is a lot like I did that review of Crawling Chaos, and that's a
see.
little bit designed like Crawling Chaos, where players are just describing and the one person playing the characters just responding to the information, which is just what we did here, which is a lot of fun.
Mhm.
This is what, to me, what role playing games should be.
That is true because there is this misconception in and this it veers away completely from the original Dave Arneson idea. Dave
Yeah.
Arneson was the actual role player. Gary Gygax, he
Mhm.
organized the rules and all of that, but he didn't know exactly what role play was.
Well, he
And
was
there
a
is
miniatures player.
miniatures player exactly.
They played
Uh,
Napoleonic type games and things like that. So he
mhm,
brought
mhm.
that element into the RPG element.
But in current times, they a lot of people have forgotten how to play a role, and
Yep.
they think that tabletop RPGs are having a conversation and telling a story, but you're not talking to anyone. You're just describing your actions. I don't exist. Like I say, Abraham is gone, and Mike doesn't exist either. You have
Nope, I was
Morgan,
Morgan.
and you have the game world, and rock on. You keep on going.
Yeah.
It's like real life, but in fiction. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, because we were playing a modern day game.
Oh, and although there were some storytelling elements due to, for example, you describing your changes and
Mhm.
the way you finish off the enemy, and that was perfect because those are storytelling elements that are inserted in this particular game.
And that's I was trying not to describe too much stuff
Hmm.
because one of the things we talked about was I needed to pause to let the spider respawn depending on what I was doing. So I didn't want to get too carried away and describe all three of my actions all at once, but I did want to, hold the sword up and maybe get some extra cuts in there or things like that that might add to that story. But that last one, I wanted to just plunge the sword in, and then I knew my second action was going to be slice it forward or slice it to make that slashing action to really cause a worse injury if I succeeded, which I did. So that was my thinking on that one.
Hmm. And I think it went very smoothly.
Yeah,
When I brought out the software, the tabletop simulator, I was thinking, let's see if we can make this work. But no, no problem whatsoever.
yeah, it's just a combat grid, and it works good for what it's supposed to do because you need to know. Because I'm assuming this was, you said, a lower level encounter. Some of the larger encounters probably have all kinds of weird stuff poking out of them,
Complexities, I imagine. Uh-huh.
and
Yeah, I
that.
think in one there is like a monster that like leaves tokens on the cells, and that cell can no longer be entered into. I
Ooh,
don't remember if it's like it shoots out some sort of substance or something, but that zone is completely covered in acid or something. So now you cannot move to that cell.
so really limiting your
Uh-huh.
responses, making it, because if you're not quick with the combat, you could end up with so many of those cells blocked,
Covered, blocked. Uh-huh.
and then you're just stuck. That could be a real problem.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But no, I think the mechanics, the storytelling, this really works for an Eldritch game because like Call of Cthulhu is a cool game. It's got great mechanics and things, but it is a lot of character sheet information, all the skills and everything that you're doing. But if you can break away from that and really get into the story, you can really create some really good stories for a
Mm-hmm.
game and not play board game because I don't like miniatures on the table. Even though I love miniatures and I play miniatures, I don't use them on my table because I don't need a map and all. I kind of would draw my map out myself. I'll use some things for inspiration on the table, art, music, things of that nature. But I don't want to have that three dimensional. I want it up here
In
of
the mind's
me.
eye. The
Yeah,
mind's eye. Uh-huh.
describing and seeing and visualizing. That's why I focus a lot on senses when I play my games of what things smell like, how they feel, if there's a taste of something. That's really what helps me bring those stories to life when I'm playing solo is just focusing on my senses. And just one or two per scene. That's all. It's not hard.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you some descriptive information, something to pull from, and then just kind of moving through the story as you're telling it. The dice
Mm-hmm.
rolling is just separate, and that's one I don't like games that make me focus on character sheets and tables and charts in books and looking up rules that are complicated. Keep them simple. Keep it
Mm-hmm.
easy, so that way you can just enjoy what's taking place.
Yes, and I hope people, yeah, watching us that have never played tabletop RPGs or games in general, but in this particular case, tabletop RPGs, you don't need to learn a bunch of rules, like a lot of rules. You just need to describe your action,
Yep.
and then the game master will tell you roll attack,
Yep.
roll skill.
Yep.
Simple as that.
And that's all. And you don't, just roll. I was giving you numbers because maybe something triggered in the
Uh-huh.
monster. So I was just like, just roll. Okay. Yes, no, maybe so, and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but a good roll is always fun.
Yeah.
But no, a good game. I like it. I like this everything that was set up and all the prep work that we did prior with the Discord, all the information you put out there, so that I could really understand. Because after we met, I was like, "So how's this story going to start?" So I was, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thinking. But then once I read your world creation portion of it, I was like, "Oh, okay, I got the start of the story. I'm already dead. I already have some of this information, so I knew I was not shocked by everything in the world, but I was still learning the world that I was in or the dimension that I was in. So it was good. I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. Great game.
Excellent. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thank you and congratulations, because I think a lot of people could have died, especially because of the clockwise movement. Yeah.
I just got lucky. I guess that's the advantage of being left-handed in life because I always go to the left. It's just, I guess that's my fortunate part. So
And thank you so much to those that are watching this video right now. Um, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Check out Mike's channel. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment. This has been your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. Definitely consider joining as a member using the super thanks button. Take a look at the information in the description, the pinned comment, and remember, it is better to roleplay and fail in character than not to roleplay and fail as a player. Once again, thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording in 10 seconds.